I never used to dream. Or if I did, I never remembered them. But about 2 weeks ago, something changed. Each night, like clockwork, I found myself standing in the same place. An endless hallway of smooth, black stone stretching in both directions, lit only by flickering candle sconces. There was never any sound. No wind. No whispers. Just the silence and the door. It stood at the end of the hallway. Old, wooden, and worn, deep reddish wood cracked with time. Carvings spiraled across its surface, forming symbols I couldn't recognize. And there was always a feeling, like something waited behind it. Something that knew I was there. At first, I thought it was just a weird, recurring dream. I didn't try to open the door. I couldn't. No matter how close I got, the hallway would stretch longer. The door remained distant, as if protected by the space between seconds. I told myself it was just stress. Work life, insomnia. I had excuses. Then last night, the door was closer. When I appeared in the dream, I was already standing just feet from it. The air was colder than usual, dense, like it had weight. My breath came out in visible clouds, and I could hear my own heartbeat. The door had changed too. The carvings pulsed faintly, like veins under skin. The doorknob, brass, once still, was twitching. Something on the other side was moving. I should have run. I should have forced myself awake. But I didn't. I stood there, staring at it like I'd waited for this moment my whole life. And then the door opened. Not all the way. Just enough to let a sliver of darkness spill out, darker than the dream. An impossible kind of black, like it was swallowing light. My body froze. A smell drifted through the crack, earthy and rotten, like old leaves and something dead buried beneath them. I took a step back, but it was too late. A hand slid out. It was long and thin, the fingers unnaturally jointed and twitching, like a spider feeling its web. It didn't touch me, just reached toward me, and then the dream ended. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. My sheets were tangled around my legs like I'd been thrashing all night. I ran to the bathroom and splashed water on my face, trying to shake the image from my mind. It felt too real. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw it, just for a second. A small red mark on my shoulder, shaped like a handprint. I've never had marks from dreams before. But it's not a dream anymore, is it? I tried to pretend it was nothing. A trick of light, maybe a scratch from my restless sleep. But the mark didn't go away. In fact, by the time I got out of the shower that morning, it had deepened. The faint red outline of the handprint had turned darker, almost like a bruise. The fingers wrapped slightly over my shoulder now, as if whoever, or whatever, had touched me was still clinging to my skin. I didn't tell anyone. How do you explain something like that? Hey, a hand reached through a door in my dream and left a mark on me in real life. I didn't even believe it myself. But all day I felt watched. It wasn't the usual paranoia. I could feel something hovering just behind me, like a cold draft following me wherever I went. At work, my coworkers' voices sounded muffled, distant. Every reflective surface, windows, screens, even coffee pots, made me uneasy. I kept catching movements just out of frame. Shifts in shadow. Fleeting silhouettes. And that night, the dream came again. I didn't appear at the end of the hallway this time. I was already in front of the door. It was wide open. The hallway behind me was gone, replaced by an impossible darkness that sucked away sound. I could feel it pulling at me gently, like a tide dragging at my ankles. The smell was stronger, the rot thicker. My stomach turned, but I couldn't look away. Inside the door, there was a forest. Black trees stood like bone fingers clawing toward a skyless void. Mist clung to the branches. The same symbols that had been carved into the door now pulsed faintly along the tree trunks, bleeding down like sap. And someone was standing just inside the doorway. Not a man. Not a woman. Just a figure. Tall, thin, and wrapped in shadows, like its body was made of smoke that flickered in and out of form. No face. No voice. Just a presence. It raised its hand. Long, jagged fingers outstretched toward me. You opened it, it said. Its voice wasn't from the mouth. It was inside my head. Wet, whispery, like it was breathing the words directly into my mind. You let it in. I tried to step back, but my legs wouldn't move. My feet were rooted to the stone floor. The figure drifted closer, its shape unraveling, trailing black mist. You belong to us now. Something wrapped around my neck. And I woke up screaming. When I stumbled to the mirror, the mark on my shoulder had changed. It wasn't just a handprint now. The fingers had curled, gripping into me like claws, the tips digging just beneath my skin. It throbbed like something living. And I knew deep down, That door was still open. I couldn't sleep the next night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that door. Open. Waiting. Calling. I tried everything, coffee pacing, even blasting music to drown out the humming in my ears. But nothing worked. The air in my apartment felt heavier. Like the pressure was building. Like something was coming through. Around 3 a.m., I dozed off on the couch, phone in my hand, the TV still buzzing static after the streaming app crashed. I didn't remember falling asleep, but I knew when the dream started. Or maybe it wasn't a dream. I was in my apartment, but not. Everything looked the same, except off. Colors were muted. The lights flickered. And the shadows had grown longer, deeper. They clung to the corners like hungry things. And in the middle of the living room, where the coffee table should have been, there it stood, the door. No walls. No frame. Just the door, standing upright, pulsing slightly as if breathing. The symbols carved into the wood glowed faintly red now, like embers under ash. I backed away, but the room around me stretched with each step, distorting like a funhouse mirror. No matter how far I moved, I was always the same distance from that damn door. And then it opened again. This time, I didn't see the forest. This time, I saw my bedroom. My actual room, down to the exact placement of my jacket on the chair, the creak in the floorboard near the closet. And someone was standing in it. Not the shadow figure. This was me. At least, it looked like me. But the way it moved wasn't right, jerky, puppet-like, as if learning how to be human. It turned its head toward me with a slow, unnatural snap and smiled. "I'm getting better," it whispered. Its voice was identical to mine. It stepped through the door into my apartment, my dream apartment, but the floor didn't creak. It made no sound at all. Like it was too light. Or maybe not real. I froze, heart pounding, trying to scream, but nothing came out. The other me leaned in close, nose inches from mine, smile still wide. "You're still dreaming, right?" it asked. Then it blinked, and suddenly I was in my bed, heart racing, mouth dry, drenched in sweat. But something felt wrong. The silence wasn't comforting. It was dense. I turned my head slowly, and there, just behind me in the reflection of the bedroom window, I saw myself still sleeping. Still in bed. Still dreaming. I wasn't the one who woke up. Let me know when you'd like to continue with part 4. We're heading into the chilling climax soon. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at my reflection. Not mine anymore. It blinked, moved, breathed without me. It lay in my bed, but I could feel something else, someone else, staring out from behind my eyes. I wasn't home. I was still inside the dream. And whatever had stepped out of that door, it was wearing me. I screamed, but the sound didn't leave my lips. It bounced silently inside this version of my room. The lights flickered, and the shadows pulsed like veins. I turned to run, but the room warped again, stretching into a hallway I didn't recognize. The wallpaper peeled like skin, and the lights overhead crackled and buzzed as I walked. Doors lined the hallway, none of them mine. All mismatched, some wood, some iron, one made entirely of glass that seemed to ripple like water. They all had the same symbol carved into their centers. That same spiral. The deeper I went, the more I could feel something watching me, an intelligence behind the dream, pushing me toward something. At the end of the hallway stood another door. It was smaller, older, paint chipped, hinges rusted, doorknob barely hanging on. Unlike the others, this one was open just a crack. Inside, I saw flashes. Memories. My memories. First steps. A birthday party when I was 6. My mom crying at my graduation. Holding my first set of keys. But they were jumbled, out of order. Some twisted. Some wrong. In one, I was at a funeral, my own. But the casket lid was open, and inside was that other me, grinning up at the mourners with empty eyes. I slammed the door shut, heart pounding. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted into the void, unsure if anything, or anyone, was listening. From behind me, a voice answered. Calm. Cold. Too close. "Because you invited us in." I turned. The shadow version of me stood there, no longer trying to pretend. Its eyes were pitch black. Its smile stretched far too wide, nearly tearing the corners of its mouth. "We were locked behind the door of dreams for centuries," it said, tilting its head. "You unlocked it. You opened it." I backed away, and the hallway shrank. The doors groaned, their handles rattling. Something was waking up. Something that had been kept sealed inside this dream world. "You don't belong here anymore," the thing whispered. "You traded your place." I didn't take it. "You gave it." "No," I said, trembling. I didn't mean to. But you did. And now your world is ours. Then everything collapsed. The hallway dissolved into smoke. The shadow of me lunged forward. And I screamed. And woke up. In my bed. Gasping. I looked around. My hands. My room. Was I back? It felt real. But then the lights flickered. And in the corner of the mirror, my reflection didn't move. For a moment, I didn't breathe. The reflection in the mirror, it didn't mimic me. It stood still, watching. Waiting. I raised my hand slowly. The reflection stayed motionless for a second too long before finally copying the gesture. I told myself it was a dream hangover, just some leftover fear from the nightmare. But deep down, I knew. I hadn't woken up alone. I stepped out of bed, feet hitting the cold floor. Every creak of the wooden planks beneath me echoed louder than it should. The morning sunlight bled through the window like syrup, too thick, too slow. I crept toward the mirror, heart pounding in my ears. "Who are you?" I whispered. The reflection smiled. Not a normal smile. Not my smile. That same impossible grin, wide, unnatural, stretched like something wearing skin that didn't quite fit. "I'm the real you now," it whispered back. I hadn't spoken. I stumbled back. The room twisted, just slightly like it was holding its breath. I rushed to the bathroom, flipped on the lights. My reflection followed, but its movements lagged. It blinked before I did. Tilted its head seconds after I moved. "Get out," I hissed. But the reflection only grinned wider. That day was wrong. People looked at me strangely. My voice cracked like static on the phone. Dogs barked when I walked past. A baby started screaming when I sat near it on the bus. My own mother didn't return my calls. By evening, I had only one thought: go back to sleep. Fix this. I drank cold tea, curled under heavy blankets, and begged for the dream to come again. Hours passed. No door. No hallway. Just pitch black silence. When I finally drifted off, I didn't dream. I woke up again in that hallway. Only now the doors were all open. And the things behind them? They were watching me. Some had eyes. Some didn't. Some whispered in voices like cracking ice. One just laughed endlessly. I ran. Back to my door. Back to the real world, or whatever was left of it. And when I stepped through, there were two of me. The shadow, and the me that had returned. I thought it would fight me. That I could reclaim my body, my life. But it just stared. "You brought them," it said quietly. "You opened the first door. And now they've opened theirs." Behind me, I heard 1,000 footsteps. Doors slamming. Screams rising like a tidal wave. I tried to wake up again. I still do. But every time I blink, I'm back in this shifting place, this between. And in the waking world, I think I'm still out there. Walking. Breathing. Laughing in a voice that isn't quite right. So if you see someone who looks like me, run. Because dreams aren't just dreams anymore. And the door? It never really closed.